Hi, I said before that life has to be fun, so I'm just playing. Wanted to thank my subscribers, and I will get off live clip and get to another topic that a few of you would like to talk about. See you on the other side. See you soon. Um, I'm actually off to the show first. You have a great day and have fun. Bye bye. I'm going to take a minute to look back. And this is true that I stood in this spot thinking of how the wall was so much like my life. My path has never been straight or predictable. The soft, gentle curves, as well as the abrupt end of one stage and the beginning of the next, have only served to heighten my appreciation of all that I have now and all that I've been given in the past. Have you ever noticed that when you overcome one major obstacle in your life and take the time and effort to celebrate your success, that you begin to feel more powerful and more optimistic? I want to remind you to take time to celebrate. Your celebration time is like refueling your tank. A little time invested to re-energize will get you a long way down the next road. It may seem corny, but physically pat yourself on the back or mark the calendar in some way that brings a smile to your face. Lay back on your pillow and replay the steps that brought you to the time when you hit your target and could remove the baggage that weighed you down. Smoking was one of my earliest obstacles. To get around it, I rewarded myself for any big or small victories, which were when I resisted the temptation to smoke, or I kept away from places where smoking was allowed, or just didn't ask another person for one drag. I can still remember how, for several months after I threw out my last package at the end of each month, I took a portion of the money that I didn't spend on cigarettes and I bought myself something extra, like my new cowboy boots, on jewelry, or clothing. On every payday, I rewarded myself like that until one day I realized that, hey, I had no more cravings and I had no fear that I would start up again. The how I quit smoking isn't as important as how I felt as I gained control over something that was controlling me. Decades later, when I see someone sucking on a cigarette, I still mentally give myself a pat on the back for leaving that old habit in the past. Truth be told, gambling was probably my greatest challenge. It started out as a safe, respectable way for me as a divorced woman to be out at night. I was alone and I didn't want to stay in the house all the time by myself. I wasn't ready for dating, wasn't interested. So I misinterpreted gambling as my freedom and my entertainment, when in fact it was my personal addiction and a prison. When I finally assessed the damage, I wanted to change, but it was like another personality took control. I absolutely hated myself every time I failed to stay away, and after I struggled desperately to stay away, I would find myself binging for 3 or 4 days at a time. I could write a book about my gambling story, but I don't want to relive the pain, so I'll just tell you enough to make my point. One day on YouTube, I heard Esther Hicks say that fighting against something keeps it active in your experience. That just rang so true for me, and I was going to change what I was doing. Instead of beating myself up and focusing on my failure, for the first time, I really sat back and paid attention to the circumstances that were going on before I drove off to the casino to gamble, and to the words that were in my head, what arguments I was using to justify my actions. Eureka! There was a pattern. If I was angry, instead of having a conversation with the person who I was angry with, I just closed my lips and drove off to the casino. When I was lonely, I got dressed and headed to the casino. That could be at 12 o'clock at night, it could be in 3 in the morning. And when I really paid attention, I heard myself. The broken record that I played over and over again was that I was free to do whatever I damn well pleased, and I didn't have to answer to anyone. So this so-called affirmation of my freedom was an outright lie, because I had no healthy control over my life, and I was hurting myself financially, emotionally, and socially, because I didn't want my friends around me. I wanted to be alone when I was gambling. A belief is a thought that you keep on thinking, and I was operating under a false belief. That truth did set me free. I had 3 more trips to the casino, and each time I was struck by the fact that it didn't feel like fun for me. In a matter of a week or two, well, as I was in that casino, I also didn't notice any of the glitz or glamour or the winners that I used to be attracted to. I just saw the sad and desperate faces. In a week or two, I could drive past where I used to turn into the casino, and I had no more urge to go back. I actually could call myself an ex-gambler. I blew away my obstacle by changing my thought. We also need to practice until things become automatic. So every time my travels took me past the casino, I happily say out loud, "I'm keeping my money. It is not going into another slot machine." And after a while, I shortened my verbal pat on the back to just keeping my money, keeping my money. But I kept patting myself in the back. And I no longer have the urge to gamble, but I've replaced it with a lot of other fun things. Besides the new self-talk, the second component of getting over this obstacle was just recognizing that my gambling was a reaction to my normal feelings. I felt anger, loneliness, and a huge amount of resentment. I finally clearly saw what I was doing and what it was doing to me. It was logical that I needed to take time to recognize the cause of the different negative emotions and use the time to feel the emotion without trying to stop it before the wave subsides. Suppressing any negative emotion with a stiff drink, a couple of pills, or, in my case, a trip to the casino, just added another layer of negative garbage to my consciousness. For me, learning how to see it, feel it, and then let go took time and quite a bit of practice. There is a simple truth about any change you want to make that can shorten the time between your desire and the achievement of it. First, the very important step is to stop beating yourself up. Why do we think we have to punish ourselves? Break the pattern of being upset, disappointed, guilty, or angry because you think you don't have enough willpower to stop whatever it is you no longer want to be doing. When we rely on willpower, that power will fizzle out. That's what normally happens, and I'm sure it's happened to you a lot of other times. Instead of struggling against something, the better alternative is to add new things to your life consistently. Keep adding new. And your old negative practices will fall away. In my last video, 63 Steps to Better Health, Gaining Insight for Self-Improvement, I shared an activity to identify some of the obstacles that are holding you back. One of mine was the belief that I didn't have enough time and I couldn't do more or add more activities to my schedule. Now we'll have to get back to stretching time in another video, but the smallest segments of time well spent can really enrich your entire life. Once again, I suggest that every day you take time to bask in the things that pleased you. Whether you do it as you lay in bed at night, write it in a journal, or just say thank you at the moment that you feel the pleasure, you are gaining insight in developing a new, ever-changing perspective. Your life is changing. Basking in your own accomplishment is a sign of your appreciation for what has occurred. Consciously appreciate the good things in your life, and your life gets better and better. After taking time for appreciation, it is time to move toward your desires and to smooth your path forward. To do that, you might want to identify and prioritize your obstacles. Work on only one at a time. Only you can decide which is the biggest drain on your well-being. Don't let anyone else influence you on what you should be choosing to focus on. With each success, there is a subtle increase in your vitality, and the taste of accomplishment lingers with you. Know that each setback on the way to a final result gives you information that will prove useful in the future. Whether you realize it or not, you are better equipped to tackle the next challenge. Smoking, gambling, eating disorders, abusive relationships, fear, worry, tunnel vision, limiting beliefs, control sex, guilt, self-judgment, procrastination, and negativity are just some of the obstacles that keep us from being the best versions of ourselves. Success comes from inspired action. There is no wrong action because every action we take is informative and nothing is written in stone. We are free to adjust our activity and change our minds. What is poison to me is prolonged inactivity of mind and body. Procrastination is still my weakness, but as you may have guessed, I'm working on it. On my fridge is my intention. It says, I will do all that it takes to overcome the obstacles in my life. I will trust my heart to know the truth. Well, that's it for today. Keep well, and thank you to you all for joining me, and thank you for sharing and subscribing. I appreciate it very much. Bye-bye.